A 7, 8-year-old, Ryan, earned $26 million last year. Do you want to know what my salary is? I have a PhD from the University of Manchester, but I can tell you I went to school and I did all sorts of things. There's never been a point in the world in the history of the world when we are all equalized, no matter how old we are. Whether you are 7 years old, you're 40 years old, or you are 80 years old, you can actually make as much money as anybody. So right now, because there has been such a huge mutation in the architecture of how we know the world to be organized right now. And in many instances, we are forcing our children to get into roles and education system that is built for the past and not necessarily for the present. And I always say this statement because it rings true here, is that you cannot solve today's problems with yesterday's logic. And that is, in many instances, what we are trying to do. The things that have worked 20 years ago, they've been taking place. If you look at artificial intelligence, you're looking at, just the fourth industrial revolution. And I'll go back to why we are here, the World Economic Forum. And I did make a mention in the last session that the Professor Charles Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum, did mention that there are two things that are important in as far as the definition of, or the reorganization of companies is concerned. There are two things, only two things are important. It's not capital, it's not really the number of buildings that you are. There are two things that are important. One is youth, and the second one is technology. So the definition of everything that is going to define the future is in the world as we speak. It's the sub-Saharan region. So we are the repository of probably the highest number, with the highest number of young people who have the capacity of changing how we are organized as a people. So when we are looking at our problems and our solutions, the challenge is that we are trying to do the things that were done 20 years ago as if they apply today. And young people are falling in that trap. It will not work. Simple. And I think it's just something that I believe that is doable.
Well, thank you very much for that, Dr. Lance. And it's very encouraging to hear what the youth are today. And we believe that. Now, going on to the second question, which also ties into the youth, because our theme today is youth participation, the key to inclusive and sustainable development. Now, one of the things that the youth are facing, Dr. Mambondiyani, is that in the previous panel discussion, Milton said, all the entrepreneurs in the building, raise your hands, and there are quite a number of us. And the experience of the youth is that when you are in Zimbabwe, getting money out of a bank is a lot harder than getting tears out of a rock. That's how difficult it is to get money out of a bank. So the ideas are there, financial services sector, to actually play its part in funding the ideas of young people. And even, the ideas in non-traditional industries, emissions control, environmental sustainability, artificial intelligence, digital innovation. And maybe you can even share with us what you're doing as part of the Bank A, in order to support young people through finance, through creating spaces where ventures can thrive.
With due respect, I think we always look at some of these questions wrong, and I think you're asking the wrong question. Because I believe, I know George is here, right? Where's George? One of my colleagues from ProA. You don't need money to start a business. You need money to expand a business. And I think we always get entangled with that challenge, that if you have a good idea, you don't need money to start that business with your idea. In many instances, what we need to do is to make sure that we are actioning on our thought process, on our idea. I was saying in a previous forum before that many of us sit on our ideas until somebody else has implemented it. And then we cry and say, Dr. Lance or this company has stolen my idea, I thought of that first. There's a statistic that I had that there is 7.5 billion people in the world, right? As we speak, about 7.5 billion people in the world. At any given second, 300 million people are thinking of exactly the same idea. 300 million every second are thinking of exactly the same idea. So no, honey, nobody stole your idea. I just implemented it first. And I didn't wait for the fact that I am going to approach a bank with money, but I acted on my idea. I was quick in implementing it. When I implemented it, when you want to expand it, world that have been successful in the past 10 years have not been established with capital. They've been established by an idea. Well, whether you take Facebook, you take Google, you take Twitter, you take most of the mainstream businesses that are dominating the world as we speak, were not started because somebody funded them. They were started because somebody incubated an idea, and that idea was then funded going forward. Econet Wireless was not started with money. You know, Kingdom Financial Holdings was not started with money. It started with Nigel having an idea, as he always told me the story, leaving and going back to his father's house so that he can incubate that idea. But he didn't wait and say that, you know, Bank ABC has not given me money, so I am going to forward with that. We are finding like-minded people first, linking ourselves to people who can then fervently kind of, you know, mutate our idea so that it goes to the next level. When you want to grow, that's when you approach financiers so that you are growing your business and making it better.
Wow. No, thank you very much for that. In fact, as a follow-up question, you mentioned that we are approaching as young people this question wrongly. And my follow-up question is that in terms of the skills as entrepreneurs, as young people, what kind of skills do we need to invest in? Because, for example, as you are saying, you need to start a business and then the financing will come to grow that business. Now, I'll tie this in with what the Honorable Minister Dr. Sibusiso Moyo said when he said that the African Free Trade Agreement is going to be good for Zimbabwe because of all the skills. However, our young development, so that we understand how to start businesses, we understand how to engage financiers at the right time, make sure that our businesses are thriving, growing to the point where we actually don't complain about ideas anymore. We are implementers. How do you
I actually like the fact that the Minister of Industry and Commerce is here. And I'm very, very passionate about you know, the way that we have approached our education system. I think the education system has failed me, it has failed you, and I believe that if we are not going to do something about it, it's going to fail our children. In that we are producing children who are academically smart, but who are absolutely irrelevant in as far as causing a change into the world is concerned. And I say as Zimbabweans, and this is not a problem in Zimbabwe only. It's a problem in Africa, it's a problem in Europe, it's a problem in some countries as well. In that the focus is that we have been taught that the most important thing, especially for business, is an MBA. And you know what an MBA is? It's a master's in managing the business of others. We're not teaching people in what skills do I need so that I am learning how to start my own business, how to manage my finances, how to understand what it means actually to take the risk that is needed by an entrepreneur so that one, I'm establishing that business and taking it to the next level. Yeah. So if there is one language of money, and it doesn't matter whether you're black, you're white, you're Indian, or you are whatever other shade of gray. Money is money. And no matter where you live in the world, that you know the concept of how to run a business is the same. You might think that it's different in Zimbabwe because you have sanctions and you have other things and stuff like that. That doesn't work. You know, money has no color, it has no smell. What it simply follows is the language of how to attract an investor, how to grow your business, and how really to make sure that you're taken to the next level. There are two things that I think are probably limiting us in our thought process. One, in that we are in many instances, and I think I say this in that we think that we can establish businesses that matter because we are Zimbabweans and because we can kind of supply somebody who is in Zimbabwe with a product. There is no Zimbabwean business that is ever going to compete internationally serving a Zimbabwean market. That's not possible. The reason why it's not possible is that just look at it geographically. How many people are in Zimbabwe? We have probably about, on a good day, 15 million people. Let's take away the 5 million that you said were in the diaspora, right? That leaves us with 10. Of those 10, how many are economically active? Probably 1 million on a good day. How many of those are surviving on $1 a day and stuff like that? So you know that your population of the people who are probably going to buy any of the products that we produce is probably 200,000, 500,000 people, 1 million people who were banked until recently. There's never been more than 1 million people who are banked. That should tell you the number of people who are economically active. So our thought process should always be global, or at least regional if you can't think global first. So we need to be thinking firstly about how do we take the potatoes that we are producing from here and taking them at least to South Africa, right? And taking them to Zambia and then taking them to other markets, to Malawi, to Namibia, to other markets, so that we are expanding and reaching Africa and reaching a population of 1 billion people first. Once we've reached the 1 billion people, then we are thinking, how do I reach the world? How do I reach America? How do I reach Europe? Zim-centric, the more you are going to struggle with having a sustainable business model that can really be viable and that can be profitable. So we need to think a little bit broader. We need to think global. We need to be attuned to where the world is in as far as the structure of the movement of capital and the movement of economic activity is concerned, and that is largely around technology.
Wow. Well, thank you very much. And this ties into my last question, Doctor, before we give it to the floor. And it comes on the background of a 2019 McKinsey report, which identified that the current global trends in international trade but now the balance, which is around 82%, it's about expertise and skills, knowledge. That's what we are now selling to the world. Now, in light of that, as Zimbabwe, are we prepared for that kind of trade? Or when the borders open, with this African free trade, are we going to be taken over by the world? Because everyone is more skilled than we are. And what industries do you think as Zimbabweans we can compete and actually take over the world with? Because as you said, I think the time that for just looking at the Zimbabwean market is over. We're supposed to be thinking Nigeria, South Africa, Zambia, DRC, Egypt, as Zimbabweans. What do you think we can offer them and actually dominate that trade?
We have always said that Zimbabwe has the highest literacy rate in Africa. And I'm sure a system that allows me to speak English fluently, right? Yes. That also allowed me to think a little bit broader, to be international in my thinking. But the world has changed. Unfortunately, we grew up being told that knowledge is power. But knowledge is no longer power. The application of knowledge is what is power. And we also need to realize that the future is actually not a competition of knowledge. It's a competition of our children, how to regurgitate the Pythagoras theorem, which they are never going to use ever in their lives. The world has moved into creating Ryan at 12 years old, who understands that it's not necessarily that I know Pythagoras theorem, which is important. That what is important is for me to have the adaptability of using what is present to me, which is technology, and reaching a global audience, and making money more than the CEO of Bank ABC at 7 years old. I know more than Ryan. I am sure I do. I have the ideas you have and how much you have the capacity of applying your ideas so that they are relevant in the new global world. The people and the jobs of the future are not really going to be determined by how much we know. They're going to be determined by our adaptability. That's why I can tell you that no matter the number of suits we have, Madam Boss is probably making more money than you or me. And the reason for that is because she has realized that she can make you laugh and reach a lot more people by using technology and using laughter, reaching a lot more people, and then getting me as Bank ABC to endorse her trade. She does, the dexterity of education is what is more key. What can we do with our education? How can we make it more relevant to the present? We have had many stories, and this is where I wanted to land. We've had many stories that right now as we speak, if I want to compete with Hilton Hotel, and if I want to compete with Rixi Taxi, right? Hilton Hotel has the highest number of hotels in the world, right? Then there came a little company that we all know called Airbnb that owns absolutely no asset, had absolutely no hotel, had absolutely no capital. Somebody dropped out from Stanford University algorithm that has been created by Google. And how do I say, you are here, you want to live here, I have a spare room, I'm going to connect you and I'm going to make money out of you. That is all what Airbnb is. In that, as we become a lot more connected, the most important thing is not capital, is the algorithm. So that's why you realize that the more we live as human beings and the more we automate, the more we move towards technology, our minds are no longer important because those minds have been actually been replaced by artificial intelligence. How many times have we gone out here to go to Kuwadzana? If you want to go to Kuwadzana, right? Where are you? I am in Kuwadzana Extension. Send me what? Your location. I don't need to think about where I am going. Before I used to know where is Muhacha, where is Mujajat, drop me your location. If you drop me your location, I can get exactly where you are without me thinking. So there are many things that we are doing now without using our brain. That's why we are living in a world where it's now so dangerous for computers because we don't necessarily need our brain. Our distinction is not necessarily now our brain power. Our distinction is now in creativity, and not necessarily because we know something. Because everything that we're doing can be replaced by artificial intelligence. There's a book I'm reading, and that by somebody called Noah Shemed, which has really, really changed my life, is that everything that we are doing as human beings, there is nothing that a machine cannot do better. And she landed by this argument and saying that a machine can understand much better than our human intuition on who your perfect partner match is or your marriage match is. Because it understands you more than you understand yourself. Look, I don't even know myself. Sometimes I like to wear socks, sometimes I want to wear happy socks, sometimes I want to wear blue socks. But a machine can decide, you know what, your mood right now is this, because that's what it was yesterday when you were like this. Therefore, the partner that you are most likely to spend 20, 30 years with, in as far as compatibility is concerned, is somebody with these traits. So we are slowly getting to a point maybe when our marriage decision is not going to be made by me as a person, but I am going to press an AI tool somewhere and say, find me a match. It's already happening, right? A match with. So what are we left with in as far as our decision-making power is concerned? If a machine can do banking better, can do pairing better, can take me to places much, much better, and before we know it, we hear that there is the two most dangerous things right now is biotechnology and AI. Because with biotechnology, human beings have always been much, much better at responding to their external environment, which is if there is a flood, they build a dam. If there is somewhere they want to go, they get into a car, which is mechanization. Now imagine when human beings have mastered the art quicker, and we are going to do a lot of other things that are probably going to be a lot more scary. We are going to be choosing our children. So when you want a baby, it's already happening, right? Genetic matching. So when you want a baby, some people with money right now are saying, you know what, I want a child who looks like this, with a nose like this, legs like this height. It's already happening. Now imagine if that then becomes pervasive. What is our role as human beings? What are we going to be left with? I think that, to me, is what is scary. And when we look at the world and where the world is going, we just need to look at it a little bit more differently than what we have been doing in Students' Companion. Thank you very much.
And I, for one, am very glad when I was born. The technology to choose children was not yet there. I'm not sure I'll be here right now. But that was a very riveting talk, Dr. Mambondiyani, and I think I'm going to have